welcome to the Talent LNK podcast in partnership with LincolnHR, where we chat all things workforce and talent. I'm Kaylie Hogan-Schnittker, Director of Talent Strategy with the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development. Today, I'm joined in the AOI Podcast room with Jason Metz, also known as the Talent Yeti, and a technical recruiter at Talent. Jason, I'm so happy to have you here.
I appreciate
How
being
are you
here.
doing today?
I'm good. I'm just, it was an easy ride here from Omaha, so I'm excited to be here because I like Lincoln.
Well, great. Well, thank you again for joining. While we talk some tips and tricks for some creative talent and recruitment and attraction stuff.
Oh, for sure.
So Talent Yeti.
Yeah.
Give us a little background on that.
So
This is kind of a personal project, correct?
So Talent Yeti started back in, I think it was like 2019, maybe 2018, somewhere around there. And I was invited to speak at the Omaha Landing Crew puts on the hire conference. So I was invited to do that, and I came up with this title for my presentation, be a Talent Yeti. And it just kind of rolled from there because it was like, okay, so I did this thing and people started asking me to speak at their company or at their events or whatever else. I said, and they're willing to pay me. And I was like, well, what am I going to call this thing? Because they need a company to pay. And so then I was like, all right, Talent Wizard, Talent, whatever. And Talent Yeti just stuck.
It really sticks. It's stuck in my brain, I think, since the first time I saw you present at the hire conference with the Omaha Chamber.
Yeah.
So
it just kind of hung out, and people just started referring to me as that. And I was like, did I give myself my own nickname? Because that's kind of lame, right?
That seems to be how it happens, I suppose.
A little bit.
Especially when you get older. No
one's giving you nicknames when you're in your 30s to 40s.
No, not usually, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So how long have you kind of been in this HR recruiting talent world?
I appreciate that question. So I started my career in 2006 working for an IT company called MSI Systems Integrators. They've been bought and sold a few times since then. And so about 2000 and when the recession hit and the late 2000s, right? No one was really hiring, so they did layoffs, and I had to go do some other recruiting thing, some other things in my career for a little bit there, right?
Yeah.
And then come 2014, I had the opportunity of a lifetime to jump back into recruiting at a Nebraska-based organization called Mosaic, where I worked for Yvette Samodi, Yvette Green at the time, and she brought me back into HR and hired me as a talent sourcer because I still maintained my certifications and stuff like that. And when I started recruit, I was like, I don't know sourcing. Like I've been out of that world for a few seconds, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but I jumped back in and I told myself I'm not going to be out of that market ever again. I'm not going to be one of the folks that are like on the chopping block. Right. Before it was because I was a young guy, right? Yeah. More entry level, whatever. I'm not going to have that again. So I started watching all these YouTubes because it's like, what are people doing today? And it's still built off of the same core stuff. They just had some extra things. And every time I saw YouTube, I thought I could do that. And so that's when I started like, okay, we're going to dig in and figure out how we can find people's information in this way. Right.
Yeah.
And then since then, it just kind of like it rolled. I had a lot of success there, and I've had successes in other places. But, I tried a few things along the way in HR, but recruiting's it for me, on that end of things. And so that's kind of how I got here.
That's cool. So you're a technical recruiter at Talent. Tell us a little bit more about that and what is Talent?
Yeah, so Talent is an organization. It was built out over the years of several different organizations that does specifically engineering recruiting. They support engineering firms. So, while I can't tell you all of our clients and the cool projects that we're doing,
dang it,
there's a lot of like big things that are happening in the United States, whether it's our infrastructure for the grid, electrical grid upgrades and things like that, to things in aerospace, to things in nuclear power generation, and there's just a lot of cool projects out there. And we have the luck of being able to support those projects with a wide variety of different engineering firms and a wide variety of different roles in there. So it could be anything from, hey, they need administrative support. While that's not our main thing, right? We typically go for like project managers, engineers, things like that. We'll do that for them. And so it's really, really cool because we get to present these very unique opportunities to work with organizations that like, wow, I can't even believe I'm submitting candidates to them, right? And I think the other part of it is they do it in a way that I think it's a fair way to do it when it comes to the value that they're providing, right?
Yeah.
Because I see so many other firms that are, I talked to a COO connection of mine, or one of those types of leaders, and he said that they paid like 40% or something like that, and it was no return fee, and they end up not having talent, right? And we get to present candidates and be of an equal kind of like, used to each other. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a really neat opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's cool that you're kind of, when you started mentioning the roles that you're hiring for, I'm thinking a lot about some of that like mid to high level talent that I know a lot of our own recruiters here in Lincoln are, they sometimes struggle to really grasp people.
Yeah.
So as our world is changing very dramatically, with all the just really cool things that the United States is getting involved in, I could number off many things, like, the CHIPS Act, which is like really increasing semiconductor industry in the United States, which is, again, some of those really like high skill roles that are going to be harder to fill. What, I guess, why is it important for recruiters to get really creative right now, and what sort of opportunities do they have?
Yeah. So the thing that you see here is with all the things that are happening in the United States, and you see it in Europe where they have, I can't remember the name of it now, but they have it to where it's like kind of like the right to be forgotten, right? You don't have to have your information out there on the internet kind of thing. And there's a lot of protection. Oh, GDPR, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's it, right? I think that's the term. Anyway, there is more people that are kind of looking at their social footprint and saying, hey, I need to protect that or do something right. And there's still a lot of data out there. So in today's world, those people that maybe they're approached too much and they're like, or they're getting overwhelmed, right, by messaging, because through Indeed, let's face it, they've made it way too easy, and everybody who says they're a recruiter just launches messages all over the place.
Yeah, I received so many of those on LinkedIn, and
so,
I feel bad. I ignore them, but they get
annoying, right?
Yeah, they are.
It's the same message every time. And so that's where it gets to be creative. So one of the things that a lot of recruiters miss is that if you're doing this way, right, and other recruiters are doing it that way, it's likely every recruiter is doing it that way, right? Or the majority, they're all messaging through Indeed and LinkedIn. Your goal then is to kind of get above that. And so how do you get in front of those folks that you want to talk to? And the shortest way is through the phone still, right? Like let's get back to square one, make a cold call, and do that thing, because that's what's going to get you. It doesn't have to be completely cold, but let's go for it, because that's the way to get to them quicker, get your message across, and also let them know that you're a human being that cares about them as a person, where that's harder to display in an email when they have 500 other emails like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you're married or not, but you probably, some guy just sent you a letter anonymously and said they're in love with you. That's probably just not going to do it for you, right?
Oh, heavens, no. I would call the police.
Yeah, I know. So that's what we're asking to do. Recruiting or taking a new job is one of the 7 like top most stressful decisions in your life,
it's a big part of your daily routine.
Yeah, it's like having a baby, getting married, buying a house, a death in the family. Those situations, it's up there. And so you have to bring that human side, and that's why it's important to be creative.
Yeah, I really like that. What are some ways, other than cold calling, that folks can kind of be that human to human
Yeah.
interaction?
So, you want to get your stuff in front of people. I'm going to go old school on here because people forget we used to have phone books with addresses and all that. And it's really easy to find an address. I mean, you could go to your county assessor's office, look that up by name, if they own property, of course. There's just a lot of different tools. And if you go out to my website, I have a whole list of free tools and stuff like that. But a Hallmark card, right? Like, a lot of companies do mailers mass mailers when they have to do a mailing to try to get folks for like whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that certainly, I mean, I get how many mailers, and I just throw them away because I'm not going to be excited.
Wow.
But if someone sees that stamp and they see like a handwritten address, and they put a sticker on it, the Hallmark sticker or some kind of sticker that looks nice, it's going to get open. It's going to get looked at.
I had never thought about that.
So you will now jump ahead. I did it a lot when I worked for Mosaic. I would write cards and do all that stuff because I could find their addresses. People in intellectual disabilities, leaders, they weren't necessarily networking the same. So, yeah.
Interesting. That's really fascinating. I kind of like that, especially when you're trying to make an impression, because I can tell you, the interview processes that I hear my friends go through, that I've gone through in my career, the ones that are most human are the ones that definitely have kept my interest peaked. And so I really like that.
Yeah.
Well, before we dive into a couple more ways, actually, let's go ahead and dive into some just other ways, some free tools that maybe you have on your website, other ways employers in the community can really think about their recruiting strategies.
Yeah, so other tools that I particularly use because I need to find a phone number, right? Like that's, I hit everyone in two ways. I'll email them and I'll call them. Cyberbackgroundchecks.com. It's no secret. I've talked about it for years. If you're not using that, right, to find free phone numbers, that's silly. Some of those phone numbers aren't going to be for the direct person. So you're going to be talking to a grandma, an aunt, a brother, something like that. But who better to suggest them? I've only had like one or two people get angry off me talking to them about their kid's job.
Oh my
right?
goodness.
Like that doesn't happen very often. That a grandma's going to help you, right?
Yeah.
Other thing, and that will also have addresses and perhaps other information in there that's useful to you. Other free stuff, like seriously, people talk about LinkedIn and their limitations and things and all this stuff. I still work outside of it. I don't need a LinkedIn license because I still go use all these tools and free samples and whatever else because I'm cheap, and it still works, right? Like it just Boolean will still slay what you need to slay. Just learn some basic methods. You can still find those profiles pretty easily. You have full access to the whole thing.
And you said you have a list of these on your website?
Yeah. So I have my start.me page, which is like my work, my dashboard of tools, right? Like magic. And I follow a bunch of dashboards. Start.me is awesome because people can share their dashboards. You can use it for free. You go out to my Talent Yeti website, go to my tools page, or follow the 4 recruiters kind of thing I have there. I still have some updates due on the page, by the way.
It's okay.
Because I've been I've been focused on all kinds of things, but it's on there, yeah.
Cool. There's also a group on LinkedIn that I'm a part of that you started. Talk a little bit about that and how people can find it.
So I didn't actually start it myself. A guy named Terrell, he was the head of recruiting over at Spreetail.
Okay.
And he was leaving the area, and he said, "Hey, I need someone to take this over who really knows this stuff." He invited me to the group because of that. And so Terrell gave me the opportunity to take the page over and just start posting stuff. And that's what I did. He made me group admin, and then now I own the group, essentially. And so, yeah, I mean, if you go looking through there, I mean, I have so much material and stuff in there. just look for something, type in phone numbers. I'm sure you're going to find a bunch of different posts and sort it.
Yeah, definitely. And is it like the Midwest?
Oh, yeah.
What is it called?
So I have the Nebraska Recruiter Network.
Yes, that's it.
And then I started one, but I have not quite there. It's the Midwest No Cost, Low Cost.
Yes.
But that's a work in progress. I haven't
That's
really
okay.
touched it. I got busy with stuff.
It's okay. I definitely understand
Yeah.
how that goes. Well, we'll get more people in there so
Yeah.
you can get more content.
I mean-
but those groups are always so helpful. I know recruiters are always looking to connect with new
Mhm.
folks. So, okay, I'm gonna ask you, and I kind of make fun of this sometimes, so I'm doing it anyway. But what are your ins? So, what are you for in 2024 in recruiting, and what is out?
Well, what's in, like, to me is, making a phone call, dialing. That's not always the most fun. A lot of recruiters are scared of that. I also think what's in is, building, you really got to build a relationship first. This whole thing of like the cattle call of like, I'm just going to pop through emails. And we all do some of that, right? And the recruiting side, but making a connection, letting them know that they're seen, that's the most in thing. What's out? Long interview processes, waiting for months or whatever. It's kind of confusing right now because companies are, with the economy and things like that, they're going slow on recruiting a little bit, right?
Yeah.
They have this great need, but at the same time, they're really turning off candidates who are really looking for jobs.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a tough spot to be in. As a recruiter, you're kind of pinned between two parties that are butting heads a little bit.
Yep. I have a lot of friends who are in the job market right now, and
Mhm.
they're like, I apply for so many jobs, but how am I not getting hired?
Yeah.
And then some are going through these like excruciatingly long interview processes.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think that's out. I don't think you need 4 interviews
Mhm.
to figure out if someone's a good fit.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you do, maybe this isn't your strongest role.
Yeah. I think what else is out is this whole like super formal thing, this is how I work every day. Now I work from home, so it's a little bit different, but if
That's
you can
very
be less
nice.
formal, I think it's a plus.
It definitely, I think, helps people's authenticity come out a little more.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they have to be all buttoned up.
Yeah, and frankly, I wasn't very buttoned up before, so
That's okay. I've learned how to relax a little bit
Mhm.
more in my own professional life.
Yeah.
But I think that's the benefits of being on the younger side, too.
Yeah.
Well, any final thoughts for employers or recruiters?
Yeah. I have a thought, and I was thinking about this on my way down here, for recruiters and any HR professional that's looking for a job right now. And maybe they or recruiters and HR folks that are in positions that right now it's not working out, right? Like they're like, hey, I was successful here, here, and here, but I'm not being very successful in this environment, right? And here's the thing I would tell you is sometimes it's not about the fish in the pond. It's about the pond the fish is in, right? Like it's not, I think about it this way, in my career, I've had roles where I was super successful, and in some ways, maybe I wasn't as successful, right? In other areas of my career. And it's not because those companies are bad. It's not because you as a recruiter or HR professional are necessarily bad. It's just not the environment for you, right? Like it
Absolutely.
doesn't work out. It's not primed for you as an environment. And it's okay. It's time to move on, right? And you can accept that. Don't take it as like, I'm just a miserable, failing person and I just can't do anything right. That's what we get in our minds, right? You haven't hired someone for a long time. Well, that as a recruiter, that hurts, right? Like,
Absolutely.
but it's not necessarily about you. What's the environment set up? What's all the things that you're battling against? And maybe it's not this. Maybe this is just not the place for you. So, what I would tell you is, keep on hunting, keep on building relationships, doing all those things that are right, and you'll get there. And maybe you have to take a turn off before, to a different place before you can jump back in, just like I did earlier in my career. If you need a podcast, go check out Regina Hartley, where she speaks about silver spoons and scrappers. Look, scrappers, we're going to hold out and we're going to get where we need to go. You just have to keep on fighting.
Well, that's great. I love that advice. I think being in the right seat in the right place is so helpful to being a successful recruiter, individual.
100%.
All of the above. So that advice goes for everyone. Well, great. Jason, thank you so much for being here today. These resources have been awesome. I will make sure everyone sees your Talent Yeti website.
Okay.
And we will chat soon, I'm sure.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.